Bit of hesitation in the market this week following Bitcoin's recent run-up as traders look for more market structure before entering their positions. But that hasn't stopped Asta from giving us 27% gains since last week, AVAX from giving us 33% gains since September, with our winning pick from last week, Dude, still very much skybound, now giving us 387% profits in just 2 weeks, and we've got more to come. So stay right there. Hi, this is Paul with ArcisFX with your top altcoin picks for the week. First up, this is BAN Comedian token, and we currently have an ascending triangle pattern with the price action butting up against the 200 MA on this time frame, the 4-hour chart. And what we want to see is either a retrace back down to this lower diagonal trend line, which would also serve as a pretty good entrance point, and then look for a bounce from there. But if you don't get that retrace, you want to see a solid break above the 200 MA and the top trend line of this ascending triangle, and then look to come back in on the retest at around here, which will give you nice confluence with the 200 MA coming in. So you've got a load of buyers coming in for the breakout of the top of the ascending triangle and the breakout of the pattern with probabilities, and then you've got the 200 MA acting as additional confluence, which will bring in a few more buyers once we flip the 200 MA from resistance to support. The price action tends to respond very positively. So two possible entries. If Bitcoin pulls back, this is an ideal place to come in. That's probably going to look like around 0.7 if we get a pullback over the next couple of days. But if we do get a nice breakout, look for something maybe even to the middle of the range, and then you've got some nice options in terms of where to put your stop loss. So really straightforward breakout or support buy with BAN. Turning now to crypto OG XRP. As you can see, we are now at support with the RSI heading into oversold territory. Now this is just a 2-hour chart, so let's have a quick look at a different time frame. This is the daily, and you can see we've got the 200 MA coming in fast as support, so you could see a slightly deeper retrace if Bitcoin continues to pull back. But let's just try and figure out where the best levels are for XRP. So if we presume that XRP is going to come back down to the bottom of this support range at around 2.7, that would ultimately be exactly here at the top of the golden zone with the 0.618 here. But if we do get a retrace back down to the 200 MA, that would be 2.6, and 2.6 takes us all the way down to about here, which would invalidate this support zone on the 2-hour chart. So it's not a particularly clear picture with XRP, but if you're looking to get an entrance with XRP, 2.7 would be a manageable position, and then maybe you can try and get your stop loss underneath the golden zone or the 200 MA to give you some decent risk management options. But you can see how a slightly deeper retrace from XRP could still happen, essentially bringing the price action bang into the middle of this golden zone. So perhaps you want to start scaling in at the 618 at 2.7, and then if you do get that dip to 2.6 to tap the daily 200 MA, then you've got some of your position left over to enter a lower price point, which of course gives you a lot of flexibility, because obviously if you enter here, but the price action continues lower down to here, you don't need the price action to retrace all the way back up to your first entry position in order to recoup any losses you've incurred. Because of course, if you come in at 2.7, but the price action heads down, coming in at 2.6 with another position will essentially allow you to get out of both positions at break even at around 2.65 in between these 2 points, which gives you plenty of options in terms of risk management. So a simple 2-point scaling in strategy might work for XRP here. You look to come in at 2.7, hope for that bounce, but if you don't get it, you can come in again at 2.6 and then try and scoop up the price action like that. So not 100% clear position with XRP, but nonetheless 2.7 and 2.6 look like the areas to watch. Next up, this is CELLO USDT daily chart, and we've had a nice strong breakout of this diagonal resistance line and the 200 MA on this price chart, and of course the 200 MA on the daily is a pretty significant resistance or support level. But because we've managed to surpass this previous swing high, this is showing that bullish momentum is picking up for CELLO, and we are currently testing this horizontal line which we've broken out of. But of course this has got the most confluence with the 200 MA and this diagonal level, so you could come in here at support, but ask yourself how many buyers are there at this level compared to here. And there's an argument to say that there's more buyers coming in because we haven't yet retested this diagonal line following the breakout, and because we know Bitcoin may have a bit more downside ahead, I would say this is the better play, and just wait for CELLO to come back down to retest this diagonal to check its flip from resistance to support, and then you'll also have the 200 MA coming in to give you this nice pocket, and that would be a safer play. And then of course if it does go in the wrong direction and Bitcoin forces the market down, you're running straight into support, so you've got plenty of options in terms of risk management. And I think obviously given that, I would adjust my stop loss to be just below here and look for a play like that. 200 MA confluence on the flip side of this diagonal line, and then look to scoop it up from there with a nice solid place to put your stop loss. You might want to do a bit of work on this and just figure out what your price targets are. Are they a little bit higher? Are they going to be exactly where this swing higher was? I would suggest that we should maybe be aiming for up here following this breakout, which then makes having a slightly deeper stop loss a little bit more palatable, because at least then we can have a risk reward ratio of 3 or above, which is exactly where we want to be with these sorts of setups. So CELLO's looking pretty good. And this is banana. We have this descending channel pattern, which has a 70 to 80% chance of a break to the upside. And again, we have this lovely confluence of the 200 MA on this, the 8-hour chart. And confluence is the name of the game in terms of getting probabilities in our favor. So we are looking, of course, for a breakout of this pattern with probabilities, and then, of course, a simple retest, ideally in a pocket like this, for continued movement higher. So really straightforward play for banana. Wait for that bullish confirmation, that move above the 200 MA. Like this, essentially, if you look how the price action is broken above the 200 MA, it comes back down to retest it, and then away we go. And because we've got this diagonal trend line currently acting as resistance, if we can break above that, we can flip the 200 MA and this diagonal trend line to support all in one go, which will bring a lot of buyers potentially to this trade. And then maybe just take profits at around 32, the previous swing high, until it gives us something different. But essentially, banana has some options for you, and because we're quite low down, seeing as we've had quite a lot of retrace this year so far for banana, and it seems to be finding a base at this level at around 13.7, it is ripe, if you excuse the pun, for a move up. But just a reminder, these setups are coins or tokens that are simply providing opportunities to trade based on established TA and are available to trade across a variety of centralized and decentralized exchanges. You can trade them any way you see fit, long or short, for intraday trading or long-term holds. We provide the analysis, but you decide how to trade. And the movement of these assets are dependent, of course, on the market weather, the money flow, and what Bitcoin, the market king, is doing. So to trade these successfully, ensure you are subscribed to all of our weekly coverage, and be sure to check out our most recent Bitcoin update video, as that contains all the info you need to trade these setups successfully. This is AVAX, which we were talking about at the top end of the video as a winning altcoin pick. We had this breakout of this ascending triangle pattern, didn't get the retest, but we came all the way up to hit our TP2, our take profit target. Now we are retracing back down to potentially form a double bottom at around this level, at around 26.8, and you can see there's a big order block here, so this is not a bad place to come in. But presuming Bitcoin is going to give us a little bit more downwards pressure or uncertainty, then looking to come in at this level would be fantastic. And we've got the 200 MA as well coming in fast to act as support. Obviously, you want to have a think about where you want to put your take profit price point. You could put it in this order block up here just to try and see if the price action returns at least back to this level, but I'm not sure looking for a take profit up here is a good idea, because as you can see, there's still a lot of sellers waiting to try and take control of the price action. But that's AVAX, nice support buy. This is APT. This is a descending triangle pattern which is broken out against probabilities in the other direction. Typically, you'd expect a descending triangle to move down here, but that hasn't happened. And again, we've had that nice flipping of this, what was previous diagonal resistance, with lovely confluence of the 200 MA, as we've seen with quite a few setups today. And we are currently retesting. So apt APT is currently in play, looking for an SR flip buy at around 4.9. So that's in a really great place, really manageable place. It's really low down. So even if we do get a dip back down here, we are running straight into support, which will no doubt give you options to get out. So say you do enter here, and instead of doing this, it actually does this. You're running straight into support, which another set of buyers are there, which will hopefully push it back up at the very least to give you a no loss exit. So very manageable place in terms of risk management and profit potential. So APT is looking pretty good and ready to go, actually, if you think Bitcoin is going to bounce from where it is at the moment, but caution here. And this is Wormhole, which we've been talking about over the last few weeks, moving a little bit in slow motion. We've had the breakout and retest of that level, but we've struggled to actually flip this previous resistance level of about 1108 properly. But now we have had another high in the price action, moving above this previous swing high, adding to the bullish confirmation for this setup. And we're coming back down right now to support to retest it for the first time since this flip. And if we do put a little diagonal support line here, which has been supporting the price action, you can see we are now in a nice little pocket with the price action. Just get that all lined up properly. There we go, that looks about right. And then if you put a nice little arrow there, you can see this is the pocket we're looking to trade. And we've also got the 50 MA coming in fast, acting as support. So a pretty decent place to come in on at the moment for Wormhole, as long as this pocket holds. But you always have to visualize what would happen if it does go in the wrong direction. And if it does go in the wrong direction, the great news is that Wormhole is going to run straight into the 50 and 200 MA on the daily time frame, which is super significant, which will at least have enough buyers to afford the price action a little bit of a bounce, which will allow you to get out of your current position at no loss, regardless of whether it ascends higher from there or starts to roll over. So Wormhole is now in the position which we've kind of been hoping it would be in for the last few weeks. So pretty solid play right here and now for Wormhole. This is PEPE, and we looked at this at the back end of Bitcoin Update early in the week, and this setup is pretty supportive of a bullish idea for Bitcoin and a slightly bearish idea for Bitcoin. So we have a few setups which are ready to play now if Bitcoin moves up from where it is, but if Bitcoin does head lower, then you've got some of these setups to help you out. So PEPE, of course, if we do get a move up from Bitcoin, we could see a breakout of this diagonal trend line, and you can look to come back in on the flip side and then take your profits at the previous swing high here. So that's a more bullish play, but the price action is currently trapped below this, the 200 MA, making a support entry a little bit more palatable, especially considering Bitcoin potentially could still have some significant downside ahead over the next few days following its very strong run up over the last couple of weeks. So PEPE is supportive of quite a lot of options in the market right now. Currently, the support entry in around 0.6, don't forget all the zeros which I've missed off, is currently in play because of course we're below the 200 MA and we're stuck below this diagonal resistance and now this horizontal resistance, but that could fast change if Bitcoin makes a strong move. But Bitcoin dominance at the moment is ascending higher, so that isn't particularly helpful for altcoins, so you might want to be patient and look for a slightly lower entry for PEPE. But a couple of options, but this is definitely one to put in your back pocket. As I said, it's supportive of both scenarios. And just as I mentioned with Bitcoin dominance, this is a bear pennant of sorts, which the indices action has been in. We're still waiting for that elusive lower low to confirm that this uptrend, this intermediate uptrend, is going to switch back to a downtrend, much like we've had over the last few months. But so far, the indices action is breaking above in the opposite direction, which is not particularly helpful for sustained altcoin movement. And that, of course, is reflective of what Bitcoin is doing, which it's kind of sitting in no man's land, where people are trying to figure out, is it going to bounce at its current level following a little bit of retrace over the last couple of days, or is there more downside ahead? And probably people are thinking there's a little bit more downside ahead, and that's why Bitcoin dominance is pumping right now. So we've got a variety of setups today to support a bullish move from Bitcoin over the next couple of days, which can pull the market higher. But caution here, of course, as Bitcoin dominance is suggesting that there's still quite a lot of hesitation in the market. But what we do know is we do want to enter altcoin long setups when Bitcoin dominance is at resistance, and this is resistance for Bitcoin dominance because it suggests, of course, we could get rejected from here, which will allow some money to flow into the altcoin market. So even though it's not a particularly clear picture, principally if this breakout isn't confirmed and Bitcoin dominance comes back down into this pattern following this move over the last 48 hours, then that might be your signal to enter your altcoin long, of course, because if you're entering your altcoin long after a downwards move, which is good for altcoins, then it's more likely your altcoin long is not going to play out because you'll then get a bounce from Bitcoin dominance, money will leave the altcoin market, it'll be Bitcoin season for a few days, and your altcoin will sell off. So this is the equivalent of buying red, essentially, when Bitcoin dominance is pumping, but you do need to make sure it's not actually going to have a confirmed breakout, and it's just going to return back into this pattern. So a little bit of a complicated picture. So choosing setups with strong confluence and strong support to keep the buyers bubbling away while the market tries to find its feet is a good idea, and there's plenty of setups we've looked at today which can be supportive of that. But for more winning setups like this, please consider subscribing and also hit that like button and let us know in the comments what altcoins you're thinking of trading this week. We also have a private group you can join that posts charts like this throughout the week. But that's it for now. Catch you tomorrow for my weekly live stream where you can ask me questions about any of the coins or tokens you're thinking of trading and any of these setups we've looked at today. Hope to see you there.